On a cold November evening, Nicholas King stood in the Ashford mansion holding a 47-page prenuptial agreement. His girlfriend's father slid it across the mahogany table. "Sign it if you want to marry her. With a teacher's salary, you can't provide the life our daughter deserves." Sharon stood beside her parents, silent. They saw a poor, single father. They saw someone beneath them. They had no idea Nicholas was hiding something that would destroy their arrogance. He had two choices: sign and watch them reveal who they truly were, or walk away. He chose to sign. Nicholas had 20 minutes to read 47 pages that would determine whether he had any rights to his own future children. He sat in a leather chair, surrounded by mahogany furniture and oil paintings of unsmiling ancestors. Across from him, Mr. Ashford tapped his Rolex. Mrs. Ashford sipped wine. Sharon stood by the window, staring at the garden. 2 years ago, Nicholas had swiped right on a dating app and found a woman who laughed at his chemistry jokes. Sharon had shown up to their first date in jeans, not designer clothes. When he'd nervously explained he was a widower raising a 6-year-old alone, she'd simply said, "Tell me about him." 3 months later, she'd met Ethan at the park. His son had been shy, but Sharon crouched down and asked if he wanted to see the ducks. By afternoon's end, Ethan was holding her hand. "Money doesn't matter to me," she'd told him once in his small apartment. "My parents are obsessed with it, but I'm not them." Nicholas had believed her. Now he read a document that treated him like a gold digger. "You understand this is just to protect family assets," Mr. Ashford said, his tone condescending. "Nothing personal, just business." Nicholas didn't look up. Page 12. Sharon retained sole ownership of any property. Page 18. Nicholas had no claim to her inheritance. Page 23. In divorce, he'd leave with nothing. But page 31 made his hands tighten. "This section about future children," Nicholas said quietly. "All decisions made solely by Sharon. If we divorce, I only get supervised visitation." Mrs. Ashford's wineglass clinked against marble. "We can't have custody battles disrupting the family." "Sharon," Nicholas said, "do you agree with this?" She finally turned. Her face looked tired. "I love you, but I have to be realistic. My family built something over generations. By taking away my rights, as a father, you'd still be the father," Mr. Ashford interjected. "This only applies to potential future children. Your son isn't affected." Nicholas flipped to page 34. Sharon Ashford assumes no legal or financial responsibility for any children from Nicholas King's prior relationships. He thought about Ethan at home with a babysitter. His son, who still cried for his mother at night, who drew pictures of their family, stick figure dad, smaller stick figure boy, and recently, one with long hair labeled Sharon. "With a teacher's salary, Mr. Ashford continued, you can't provide what children deserve. Private schools, opportunities. Sharon can. This ensures she maintains resources to do so. By ensuring I have no say. By ensuring decisions aren't complicated by ego," Mrs. Ashford said coldly. "This is how families like ours operate. Non-negotiable." Nicholas reread the document. Sharon sat beside him, hand on his arm. "Please, understand. This doesn't change how I feel." The contract was thorough. Jewelry stayed Sharon's property. The Hamptons house, investment accounts, company shares all protected. Nicholas's name appeared on nothing. He reached the signature line. 20 minutes had passed. Mr. Ashford refilled his drink. Sharon's fingers stayed cold on Nicholas's sleeve. Nicholas thought about Sarah, his first wife. They'd married at City Hall with strangers as witnesses, rings from a pawn shop. When Ethan was born, they'd lived in a one-bedroom with a leaking ceiling. Sarah worked as a waitress. When cancer came, they'd emptied their savings. She'd died owing $70,000, but Sarah had never made him feel small. Even with nothing, she'd treated him like he mattered. Nicholas picked up the gold pen. "You're actually going to sign it?" Mrs. Ashford sounded surprised. "Yes." Sharon relaxed. "I knew you'd understand. It's just paper." Nicholas signed. November 18th, 2024. "Smart decision," Mr. Ashford said. "Welcome to the family, son." Nicholas didn't feel welcome. He felt like he'd sold something irretrievable. But as Sharon hugged him and her parents discussed wedding venues, Nicholas made his own decision. He would marry Sharon. He would observe. He would let time reveal who these people truly were, because Nicholas suspected Sharon wasn't just a victim of family influence. He suspected the woman who'd crouched down to talk to Ethan had been performing, just as he was about to perform now. The prenup protected Sharon's money, but it couldn't protect her from the truth about herself. He wanted to believe pressure from her parents had forced this, that once married, away from their influence, she'd become the person who'd said money didn't matter. He needed to believe it. The alternative, that he'd fallen in love with someone who would treat him this way, was too painful without proof. So he would be patient. He would watch. And on his 35th birthday, everything would change. "Should we discuss the wedding?" Mrs. Ashford said. Nicholas looked at Sharon, already scrolling her phone, already comfortable now that he'd signed. "Whatever you want," he said quietly. "Don't worry. I'll handle everything." Of course she would. As Nicholas walked past oil paintings and marble sculptures, he thought about the secret he carried, the one that would crack this family's certainty wide open. But not yet. Not until he knew for sure who Sharon really was. The wedding happened 3 weeks later. 200 guests Nicholas had never met. Sharon's dress cost more than his annual salary. Ethan was ring-bearer, nervous in his tiny suit. During vows, Sharon promised to honor him. Nicholas wondered if she knew what that meant. They moved into Sharon's penthouse downtown. Floor-to-ceiling windows, white leather furniture, chrome fixtures. Everything expensive and untouchable. Ethan was afraid to sit on the couch. The first month, Sharon tried. She asked about Nicholas's day. She played with Ethan. She cooked twice, though she'd mostly ordered from restaurants. The second month, effort faded. Nicholas came home to find Sharon on work calls, waving him away. Ethan played quietly alone. Nicholas made spaghetti. Sharon ate in her office. The third month, comments started. "How was work?" Nicholas asked. Sharon looked up from her laptop. "Made more in commission today than you make in 3 months. Casual. Like weather." Then back to typing. The pattern became clear. Sharon earned more, so Sharon decided. When Nicholas suggested better schools for Ethan, Sharon pulled up tuition costs. "Can you afford $30,000 a year? No? Then I choose. And I'm not paying for private school for a kid who isn't mine." The prenup wasn't just legal formality. Sharon meant it. Sunday dinners at the mansion became torture. Mr. Ashford called teaching a hobby. Mrs. Ashford said how lucky Nicholas was. They asked Ethan intrusive questions about his dead mother. "One dinner," Mr. Ashford said. "Teaching others' children, are you any good at teaching your own son proper manners?" Nicholas felt Sharon's warning hand on his thigh. He stayed quiet. 6 months in, Ethan made a mistake. Carrying a juice box, the 6-year-old tried being careful, but it slipped. Apple juice splashed the white leather couch Sharon had imported from Italy. Sharon erupted. "Are you serious? Do you know what that costs?" Ethan froze, empty box in hand, eyes filling. "It was an accident," Nicholas said. "An accident? This is a $12,000 couch. $12,000. Your son just ruined it. He's 6. He didn't mean to." Sharon glared at the crying boy. "You need to teach your son how to behave. This isn't some cheap apartment. Things here have value." Nicholas carried Ethan to his room. His son sobbed into his shoulder. "I'm sorry, Daddy." "I know, buddy. Is Sharon mad at me?" Nicholas didn't know how to answer. Yes, and not just about the couch. She was mad Ethan existed, that he reminded her Nicholas had loved someone before, that he was a financial burden. "Sharon just doesn't like messes. We'll clean it." That night, Sharon presented a bill. $3,200. "You need to cover half." Nicholas stared. "Half? That's more than my rent used to be." "Then teach your son to be more careful." Nicholas paid the full amount, emptying his emergency savings. The account meant for Ethan's future. The couch got cleaned. but the illusion that Sharon might care about his son stained permanently. Nicholas kept watching. The evidence mounted. Sharon made every decision. Where they vacationed Turks and Caicos, where Ethan got sunburned and cried about missing friends. What car they bought, a luxury SUV Sharon wanted. Whether they'd host Thanksgiving, no, because Sharon's family expected them at the mansion, and Nicholas's mother wasn't invited. By month 6, Nicholas had become invisible. He taught chemistry to indifferent teenagers, came home to a wife who barely saw him, tucked in a son who asked increasingly when they could move back to their old apartment. Then Sharon received her distribution. Not inheritance her grandmother lived, but a payout from restructured family holdings. $2,300,000. She didn't mention it. Nicholas found the purchase contract by accident, searching for batteries. A new penthouse downtown, 4,200 square feet. Purchase price, $3,900,000. Sharon would use her $2.3 million plus equity from selling her current penthouse. Sharon's signature. No line for Nicholas. He was holding it when she came home. You found it. No surprise. I was going to tell you. When? When finalized. Closing next month. You're buying a $4 million penthouse without asking me. $3.9 million. And why would I ask? It's my money. My decision. We're married. Yes. And we have a prenup that makes clear what's mine and yours. Sharon took the contract back. You're a teacher. You don't have standing to make decisions about assets this size. What could you possibly contribute to this conversation? The words hit like physical blows. I could contribute my opinion. As your husband. Your opinion about what? Whether we can afford it? I can. Whether it's a good investment? My family's been in real estate 3 generations. We know what we're doing. She opened wine. This is how marriages like ours work. I handle finances. You handle. Whatever you handle. She left the kitchen. Nicholas stood alone, battery drawer still open, surrounded by the stranger he'd married. Or maybe she'd always been this stranger. 3 weeks later, Sharon invited him to meet friends at an upscale cafe. She'd been excited, which was rare. Nicholas agreed, thinking maybe she wanted to include him. The cafe had exposed brick and uncomfortable furniture. Sharon's friends were already there, 3 women laughing over $9 lattes. Nicholas ordered regular coffee and tried following conversations about real estate and stock portfolios. Sharon seemed different around these women. Louder, animated. She talked about the new penthouse, family acquisitions, vacation homes. She didn't mention Nicholas once. After 40 minutes, he excused himself. The layout meant walking past the patio. Returning, he heard his name. But seriously, what does he even do all day? Sharon laughed. Teaches chemistry to teenagers who don't care. Makes, like, $48,000 a year. 48. That's less than I spend on clothes. I know, right? Sometimes I wonder what I was thinking. Teaching is such a basic profession. Like, anyone can stand in front of kids and talk about molecules. Nicholas stopped inside the doorway, invisible. So why marry him? He was sweet, charming in a simple way. I thought my parents were wrong about money mattering. Turns out they were right. Thank God for the prenup. The women laughed. What about his kid, Ethan? Yeah. Sharon trailed off. He's fine. A little annoying. Doesn't know how to act around nice things. But whatever. He's not my responsibility. Rough. Instant stepmom. I handle it. Basically stay out of it. Let Nicholas deal with his own kid. Silence. Then one friend leaned forward. Why do you look so tired lately? Sharon smiled. Hand on stomach, small gesture Nicholas almost missed. I'm pregnant. The women gasped, congratulated. Asked how far along, if Nicholas knew. 8 weeks. And no, I haven't told him yet. Why not? That's huge. Sharon's expression shifted, calculating. I want everything set up first. The new penthouse, the right private school, everything in place. If I tell Nicholas now, he'll want opinions about everything. And honestly, I don't need his input. This is my baby. My decision how to raise it. Harsh, one friend said, smiling. Realistic. The prenup gives me full decision-making power over any kids we have together, so I'm just exercising my rights. They laughed. Someone joked about power. Sharon ordered another latte, decaf. Nicholas turned and walked out. He stood on the sidewalk, people flowing around him, trying to process. His wife was pregnant. 8 weeks. 2 months of mornings and evenings and lying beside each other. She hadn't said a word, because she didn't want his opinion, didn't think he deserved to know, viewed their child like everything else, hers to control. The prenup gave her that right. Nicholas had signed it. He got in his car and waited. 20 minutes later, Sharon emerged, hugging friends goodbye. She slid in, phone already out. Ready? Nicholas started the engine. We need to talk. About what? Get in, we're going somewhere. Something in his tone made her put the phone away. Okay. Nicholas drove in silence. Sharon asked twice where they were going. He didn't answer. First stop, the high school where he taught. Nicholas parked across the street. Saturday, so the lot was empty. The building stood unremarkable brick, concrete, windows that didn't quite close. This is where you met me, remember? That community fundraiser. I was running a free chemistry workshop for kids whose families couldn't afford tutoring. Sharon looked at the building. Okay, you told me it was amazing, I volunteered. You said teachers were undervalued. You said money didn't define worth. Nicholas, what is this? He pulled away without answering. Second stop, a neighborhood with small houses, chain-link fences, old cars on lawns. Nicholas stopped at a blue house with peeling white trim. I grew up here. My mom was a nurse. My dad was a carpenter. They worked their whole lives and never had much. But they taught me something your parents didn't teach you. And what's that? Sharon's voice had an edge. That a person's value has nothing to do with their bank account. He drove again. Sharon watched him, something between concern and calculation. The cemetery was on town's edge. Nicholas knew the path by heart. Section C, row 7, third marker from the oak tree. Sarah's grave, just her name, dates, and beloved. Nicholas got out. Sharon followed reluctantly. This is Sarah, Ethan's mother. My first wife. Sharon stood with arms crossed. She died of cancer when Ethan was 3. We were poor, really poor. Couldn't afford the best treatments. Had to choose which medications to buy, which appointments to skip. We went into debt trying to give her 6 more months. Nicholas looked at the headstone. And you know what Sarah never did? Never blamed me for not having money. Never made me feel small because I couldn't save her. She just wanted Ethan to grow up knowing he was loved. Sharon's face paled. Nicholas turned to her fully. I signed your prenup. I let your family treat me like I'm worthless. I watched you become exactly what you swore you'd never be. I stayed quiet because I wanted to believe you were different, that underneath everything, you were still the woman who crouched down to talk to my son in the park. Nicholas, you're pregnant. Sharon went still. 8 weeks. You weren't going to tell me. You were going to make all decisions yourself because the prenup says you can. Because you don't think I deserve a say in my own child's life. You heard everything. How teaching is basic. How you wonder what you were thinking. How my son isn't your responsibility. Nicholas's voice stayed level, but his hands shook. I heard exactly who you are. Sharon's eyes filled. I didn't mean it like that. I was just venting. You meant every word. Nicholas stepped back. But here's what you don't know about me. What your parents don't know. What nobody knows except my lawyer. He looked at her directly. Wait until December 15th, my 35th birthday. Everything changes then, and you'll understand exactly who you married. What are you talking about? What happens? You'll see. Nicholas walked to the car. And then you'll decide what matters more, the money you were trying to protect or the family you just destroyed. They drove home in complete silence. Sharon tried twice to speak. Nicholas didn't respond. His mind was on December 15th, 3 weeks away. The day he turned 35, The day his uncle's will executed. The day Sharon would learn she'd bet on the wrong horse. 3 weeks of silence. Sharon apologized daily. She explained. She promised she'd been wrong. Nicholas went to work, came home, helped Ethan with homework, went to bed. He didn't argue, didn't engage, simply existed, waiting. Sharon stopped visiting her parents. She worked from home, watching Nicholas like she expected him to explode. He never did. The tension built until the apartment held its breath. December 15th arrived on a Saturday. Nicholas woke at 6:30, made breakfast. Ethan was at a friend's. Sharon still slept. He drank coffee and watched sunrise through floor-to-ceiling windows. His phone started ringing at 7:15. His lawyer, his accountant, his mother, people he hadn't heard from in years, all saying, "Congratulations." Had he seen the news? This was incredible. Nicholas opened his laptop. Bloomberg at 7 a.m. High school teacher inherits $10 million from late tech entrepreneur Robert King. The article explained Robert King, founder of a software company sold to Microsoft in 2018, had died 3 years ago. His will stipulated his entire estate, approximately $10 million after taxes, would go to his nephew Nicholas King on the nephew's 35th birthday. The article included Nicholas's photo from the school website. Tired, wearing the same button-down he'd worn 3 years. Nicholas had known since his uncle's funeral. Robert had told him years before, "You're the only family who gives a damn about people instead of money. When you're 35 and mature enough to handle it, everything's yours, but not before. I want you to build your own life first." Nicholas had built his life, became a teacher, married Sarah, raised Ethan alone after she died, lived simply, saved carefully, never thinking about money that would eventually come. Then he'd met Sharon and signed a prenup that would protect every dollar. His phone rang again. Sharon's father. Voicemail. Then her mother. Then Sharon's phone in the bedroom. She emerged 20 minutes later, pale, phone in hand. "Is it true?" Barely a whisper. "The news?" Nicholas closed his laptop. "Yes, you're rich. You've been rich this whole time." "No, I couldn't touch it until today. Before today, I was exactly what you thought, a poor teacher. But you knew. You knew and never told me." Nicholas stood. "I wanted to see who you really were. Turns out, you showed me." Sharon collapsed on the white couch, the one Ethan had stained. Professional cleaning had worked. You couldn't see where the juice had been. "My parents keep calling. 17 times. I'm sure. They want us for dinner tonight. They said it's important. They want to apologize. Convenient timing. Nicholas, please, just come to dinner. Let them try." Nicholas wanted to refuse, but he wanted to watch. Wanted to see the Ashfords pretend they'd always respected him. "Fine. 6 o'clock. Sharon looked relieved. She reached for his hand. He moved away. The Ashford mansion smelled like roasted meat and desperation. Nicholas arrived at 6. Sharon had gone earlier. The dining table had expensive china Mrs. Ashford, usually reserved for business associates. Candles, fresh flowers, wine that probably cost more than Nicholas used to spend on groceries monthly. Mr. Ashford stood when Nicholas entered, extended his hand. "Nicholas, happy birthday, son." "Son." That was new. Nicholas shook briefly. "Mrs." Ashford appeared wearing an apron that looked unused. "There he is. We were so excited to hear your news. Your uncle must have been remarkable." "He was. Come, sit, sit. So much to celebrate." Mrs. Ashford gestured to the head of the table. "Place of honor, where Mr. Ashford usually sat." Nicholas took it. Sharon brought food. Her parents served him first, asking if he wanted more, if everything was good, if he was comfortable. They asked about school, about Ethan, about whether the inheritance would change his plans. Nicholas answered in short sentences. He watched them perform. 40 minutes in, Mr. Ashford set down his fork. "Nicholas, I want to apologize." Tone meant to sound sincere. "I judged you unfairly. I thought money indicated value. I was wrong. You're clearly a man of substance. Always have been. Interesting you only realized that today. I'm trying to make amends. Are you? Because 6 months ago, you made me sign a contract that said I was worthless. 47 pages of legal terms. You made sure I'd have no claim to anything Sharon owned, no rights over my own children. You treated me like something you'd stepped in. Mr. Ashford's jaw tightened. That contract was to protect the family. Your family, not mine. Nicholas looked at Sharon. I want a divorce. Sharon's face crumpled. Mrs. Ashford gasped. Mr. Ashford stood so fast his chair fell. Now hold on. Let's not be hasty. We can work this out. What's there to work out? The prenup protects Sharon's money from me. Unfortunately for you, it also protects my money from Sharon. Nicholas smiled without warmth. That contract you shoved at me? The one ensuring I'd get nothing? It works both ways. Sharon gets nothing from my inheritance. Not a dollar. Thanks for that. Absolute silence. Mr. Ashford recovered first. We can void the prenup. Call my lawyer right now. Tear it up. Make things fair. Fair? Now you want fair? When you thought I was poor, fair meant protecting every cent from me. Now I'm rich. Fair means your daughter gets half. You're not sorry about how you treated me. You're just sorry you bet wrong. That's not true, Mrs. Ashford said, voice wavering. Please. Sharon's voice broke. Please don't do this. I know I messed up. I was awful. But we can fix this. We're having a baby. The room went quiet. Mrs. Ashford's hand went to her mouth. You're pregnant? Mr. Ashford looked between them. Sharon, why didn't you tell us? Because I hadn't told Nicholas yet. Crying now, no effort to hide it. I was waiting. I was being selfish and controlling, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But this baby is ours. We made this together. Please don't throw away our family because I was stupid. Nicholas felt the weight. The baby wasn't hypothetical. Sharon was showing slightly now, hand protective on her stomach. His child, another child who would grow up with or without his father's daily presence. I need to think. Of course. Mr. Ashford shifted to negotiation mode. Take all the time you need. Whatever you decide, we support you. You're family. You've always been family. No, I was never family. I was the poor guy marrying your daughter. But now I'm inconvenient to hate, so you're pretending. Don't insult me by lying. He left. Sharon followed to the foyer. I love you. I know I didn't show it. I know I failed you and Ethan and this baby. But I love you. I've always loved you. Nicholas looked at her. Really looked. She seemed smaller, frightened. The confidence she'd worn like armor had cracked. Do you love me, or do you love that I'm rich now? I love you. I loved you before this. I just forgot how to show it. You forgot how to be a decent person. I know, Sharon wiped her face. But I can learn again. I want to learn. Give me a chance. Just one chance to prove I can change. For real. Not because of money. Because I don't want our baby growing up without both parents. Because I don't want Ethan to lose another mother figure. Because I don't want to be the person I've become. Nicholas thought about walking out, divorcing, setting up custody, raising both kids alone. He had the money now. He didn't need her, but the baby complicated everything. So did the fact that some small part remembered the woman who'd crouched down to talk to Ethan in the park. 1 month. You have exactly 1 month to prove you've actually changed. Not just that you're scared of losing money. That you've fundamentally changed as a person. If you can, we stay married. If you can't, we divorce, and you get what the prenup says. Nothing. What do I have to do? First, we move out of your family's sphere. No more dinners here. No more financial help from them. You cut the cord. Sharon nodded. Okay. Second, you get a real job. Not managing family properties. Something that pays based on work, not inheritance. Okay. Third, you learn to be a mother to Ethan. Actually be present. Actually care. I want that. Fourth, you prove you care about something other than money. Find a cause. Volunteer. Help people who can't pay you back. Sharon nodded. tears streaming. "I'll do all of it. I promise." "We'll see. You've got 1 month starting tomorrow. I'll be watching. And Sharon, if you're just performing to keep access to my money, I'll know. I've gotten very good at watching you pretend." He left her in the foyer and drove home alone. The next morning, Sharon started proving herself. Week 1, Sharon volunteered at Lincoln High School, the free tutoring program Nicholas ran after school. The coordinator was skeptical. Wealthy volunteers usually lasted 2 days. Sharon lasted all week. She sat with teenagers who couldn't afford private tutors, helping with math, patient when they didn't understand, stayed late when students needed extra help. By Friday, the coordinator told Nicholas, "Your wife is actually good at this." Week 2, Sharon focused on Ethan. She picked him up from school daily, asked about his day, and actually listened to his 6-year-old stories about playground politics, made him snacks, read to him at bedtime. One night, Ethan climbed into her lap voluntarily and fell asleep. Sharon looked at Nicholas over their son's head, tears in her eyes. "He's a good kid. I was so stupid for not seeing it." Week 3, Sharon quietly did something significant. A letter arrived from City Hope Cancer Center that evening. It thanked Sharon for her generous donation of $500,000 to their research fund, made in memory of Sarah King. Nicholas found Sharon in the kitchen. "You donated $500,000 to cancer research?" Sharon looked startled. "I told them not to send that here." "Why?" "Because I didn't want you to think I was doing it to impress you. I did it because Ethan's mother died of cancer. Because you couldn't afford to save her. Because that's not right, and maybe my money can help other families not go through what you did." Sharon's voice broke. "I should have done it years ago. Should have thought about anyone other than myself years ago." Nicholas set the letter down. The donation was real. Sharon had given away money she could have kept to honor his dead wife. Week 4, they moved. Not to Nicholas's old apartment, but to a modest 2-bedroom rental across town. Sharon packed designer clothes and left most behind. She donated furniture. She told her parents they wouldn't be coming to Sunday dinners. "This is what you really want," Mrs. Ashford had said. "To live like you're poor? I want to live like money isn't the only thing that matters." They settled into the rental. Sharon cooked most nights, actual cooking, not ordering. She learned to grocery shop with a budget. She got a job at a non-profit helping low-income families find housing. The pay was a fraction of what she'd made. "I actually like it," she told Nicholas. "I'm helping people instead of just moving money around." 30 days after his birthday, Nicholas sat Sharon down in their small living room. "You did it. You actually changed." Sharon's hands shook. "Does that mean we're staying married?" "It means I believe you're trying, really trying. Not for the money, for the right reasons." Nicholas took her hand. "We're staying married. But Sharon, if you ever go back to being the person you were, if you ever treat Ethan or me or anyone else like they're less than you because of money, I'm done. No second chances after this." "I won't. I swear I won't." Sharon cried, but smiled too. "Thank you for believing I could change. Thank you for not giving up. Thank the baby. If you weren't pregnant, I wouldn't have tried. I know. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving you made the right choice." Grace Elizabeth King was born on a humid June evening. Sharon's labor lasted 14 hours. Nicholas held her hand through all of it. When their daughter finally arrived, screaming, red-faced, perfect Sharon looked at him and said, "We made something beautiful." Nicholas thought about how close they'd come to destroying it all. Ethan met his baby sister 2 hours later. He was 7 now, tall enough to peer into the bassinet without standing on tiptoes. He touched Grace's tiny hand with one finger, incredibly gentle. "She's so small. Is she going to be okay?" "She's going to be perfect," Sharon said, exhausted and happy. "And you're going to be the best big brother." Ethan beamed, then looked at Sharon, suddenly serious. "Can I call you Mom now? Or is that weird because you're not my real mom?" Sharon started crying. Nicholas had learned Sharon cried a lot now, but for better reasons. She pulled Ethan into a careful hug, mindful of the IV. "I would be honored if you called me Mom." They brought Grace home 3 days later. The rental was small, but felt more like home than the penthouse ever had. Sharon had painted the second bedroom pale yellow. Nicholas had assembled a crib from a flat box with incomprehensible instructions. The $10 million sat mostly untouched in investment accounts. Nicholas still taught chemistry. Sharon still worked at the nonprofit. They lived off their salaries and saved the inheritance for things that mattered: Ethan's education, Grace's future, donations to causes they believed in. 6 months after Grace was born, Nicholas came home to find Sharon crying over a letter. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong." Sharon held up the letter. "City Hope Cancer Center. They want to name their new research wing after Sarah. Because of the donation, they're calling it the Sarah King Memorial Research Center." Nicholas sat beside her, took the letter, and read it. "The center would open next year. They wanted the family at the dedication ceremony. Your first wife is going to save lives," Sharon said. "Because she mattered. Not because she had money, but because she was a good person who deserved to be remembered." She looked at Nicholas. "I almost threw all this away because I thought money defined worth. I'm so sorry it took me so long to understand." "You understand now. That's what matters." Sharon leaned against him. Grace made soft sleeping sounds from the baby monitor. Ethan laughed about something in the next room. It wasn't the life the Ashfords had imagined for their daughter. It wasn't the life Sharon had expected when she'd forced Nicholas to sign that prenup. But it was real, built on respect instead of money, on choice instead of obligation. The prenup still existed somewhere in a lawyer's file cabinet. It had protected Nicholas's inheritance, just as the Ashfords intended. But it hadn't protected what really mattered. "You know what's funny?" Sharon said. "My parents wanted the prenup to protect money. Instead, it protected us. If we hadn't had it, I never would have learned what I was becoming. You never would have seen my true character. We needed that test, and you passed. Eventually." "Eventually," Sharon smiled. "I'll take eventually over never." Outside their window, city lights flickered. Inside, their small family slept and laughed and built something money couldn't buy. Money had revealed who Sharon was, but the chance to change revealed who she could become. In the end, that made all the difference.